Well, welcome everybody to another edition of Last Christian. There on the left-hand side of your screen, if you're watching us, you see Mr. David Paxton, and my name is J.D. Williams. I'm here in Texas, and he's in New York. David, how's it going up there today?
Oh, it's very nice. It was a lovely day here.
Yeah, and, you were saying it was something like 80 degrees up there today or something like that?
Oh, no, just 60, which is
which probably
like 80. If
well, you know, down here,
30s,
down here it falls below 70, and everybody breaks out the long underwear and the heavy jackets and all that stuff. It gets crazy, But anyway, yeah, that's just the difference.
No jacket today.
Well, I'll tell you what, we got a lot, David. I told you before the show even started that we got just a jam-packed full show. It's very newsy. But it's very Israel, and it's very prophecy is playing out right in front of us right now. So this is a prophecy alert, people. This is a prophecy alert. There is so much going on right now. We're going to tell you about some things that are going on in Israel. We're also going to be talking about, and we're not going to get into a deep discussion on this stuff, but there's political events going on here in the United States with the president that you need to know about and make up your own mind based on every bit of information that you can get, not only from us, but from everybody. Equal opportunity. I actually credit the American people a lot more than our president or anyone else does. And that is that I believe that people have a mind, and that if you present them with evidence on both sides, that they can usually make a common sense judgment. The problem is that they're not allowed to have a common sense judgment because they don't receive all the good facts most of the time. So anyway, take that for what it's worth. Yeah. Now I'm just going to start off here. First of all, I do want you guys to pay attention to the title today, because I think that it's an important thing to see. And as you can see, I've got a wanted poster up there, and we're going to be discussing that quite a bit today as we get there, and it's important information that you guys are going to want to know about as we get closer and closer to the rapture of the church, and we believe that can happen basically at any time now, so be ready. Mm-hmm. But I'm going to start out with something here that's going to get some people's attention, I believe. This is coming out of Israel, coming out of Jerusalem specifically.
Surprise.
Yeah, it's being reported by the Israel National News. And now I'm going to butcher this guy's name. Maybe you can help me with it, David, because you might have heard of him. The name is Yad. That's Y-A-D, capital L with an apostrophe, and then Achim, A-C-H-I-M.
Lachin.
Okay. I take your word for it. I can't debate you on that one. Okay. Mm-hmm. He has reported, and I'm going to read this. I think it's important that I read it because there's stuff in here that bothered me right away, or at least it jumped out at me and like, okay. But I think you'll get the point as we go on here. Anyway, this guy, he's reported a startling. Now that's how he phrased it. Remember, I'm just reading this exactly the way he's done it here. He has reported a startling increase in the number of missionaries operating in Jerusalem, particularly in Haredi. How do you say that word, David? It's Haredi. Haredi neighborhoods. These are the guys that have the long thing on the
hard. Yeah, they're hard deep.
Okay. Again, I'll take your word for it.
It's a Jewish sect. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. This is being done particularly in their neighborhoods, in the center of the city. Now he goes on to say, and again, this is him. This is not me. Okay. This is him saying this. Offensive flyers have been distributed in mailboxes in Geula, that's Geula, in MEA Sharim, it's SHE apostrophe ARIM.
Sharim, yeah.
in Zahron Moshe.
Safon,
Okay.
Moshe,
In Sari, Israel,
Sarah, Israel. Yep.
in Base, Yisrael, and in surrounding areas. At least I got the "and surrounding areas" part down right, okay?
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
But anyway, offensive flyers is what he called it, okay?
Yeah, of course.
Now, in response, he has dispatched activists to collect the dangerous material and post warning notices. He's posting warning notices and driving cars with loudspeakers alerting residents of the threat. Missionaries. Okay, this is all about missionaries. Okay. Now, officials say that Jerusalem continues to be a main draw for missionaries who arrive in Israel with the specific goal of preaching to its Jewish residents. The past year has seen missionaries using public transportation and preaching to the passengers seated next to them. So I guess they're not supposed to use public transportation if they're a Christian. Okay, they can't do that.
What's the matter with you?
Good grief. Okay, he's got another quote here. He says, overall, missionaries have been taking advantage of the fear and uncertainty created by the Gaza war to hunt Jewish souls. And he's warning against that. Just last week.
Jewish souls.
I'm sorry?
Hunt Jewish souls.
Yeah.
That's an interesting phrase.
Yeah, isn't it, though? He said that, just last week, he revealed that the missionaries are targeting soldiers and Jews who have been forced to leave their homes in the South and North. International missionary organizations surreptitiously preach to Jews as part of their humanitarian aid campaign. And he's calling on the public to remain vigilant and asks anyone who comes into contact with missionaries or who is interested in receiving information about them to call the organization's emergency hotline, which is listed in the report, but I will not read on air. And that is available 24 hours a day. So, we're sitting here and we are really the only thing that's preventing the world from really condemning Israel, right? I mean, solidly in the UN, pretty much. And now it looks like that, if he starts going after missionaries and they happen to be American and something bad happens to them, oh, Lord help us. What is your opinion on this stuff, David? I mean, when I read it initially, I said, no, this can't be real, but I checked it out and sure enough it is. Go ahead.
Well, I mean, we've been told since Isaiah that, he'd be a rock of offense, right? So let's just get into that. You say Isaiah, and here it is, 8, it's in 14, but we'll jump up to 13. Sanctify the Lord of hosts himself, and let him be your fear, let him be your dread. And he shall be for a sanctuary, but for a stone of stumbling and for a rock of offense to both the houses of Israel, for a gin and for a snare and the inhabitants of Jerusalem. So it says that here, and even Paul talks about it in Romans. He says, behold, it is written, I lay in Zion a rock of offense. That's a good song. I lay in Zion. So that's in Romans 9:33, and then Peter even talked about it too, a stumbling stone and a rock of offense. They were referring back to Isaiah.
Yeah.
So this is what we expect to be seen, which just tells me again, JD, that the rapture is around the corner.
Right. Yeah.
Everything that's written about them is coming to fruition faster and faster, logarithmically. Well,
yeah, and we're going to get into a lot more Gaza stuff. Trust me. As we go through the show, I'm going to get a couple of things out of the way, and I'm not getting away from that yet. I mean, I'm just not. But I do want to get a couple of other things in there that the world is more interested in than Israel. Let's be honest. Most of the world could care less about what's going on over there. Anyway, this is propaganda. There's a propaganda war now between Russia and the Ukraine. I mean, that's basically what it is. the reason that I said that is based on this report right here. Listen to it.
Russia and Ukraine both reported numerous attempted drone attacks within the last day, following Hungary's veto of 50 billion euros, $54.5 billion in European Union funding to Ukraine.
Ukraine's Air Force confirmed that it had successfully shot down 30 out of 31 drones launched overnight across 11 regions. Meanwhile, Russia claimed to have thwarted Ukrainian drone attacks, with its anti-aircraft units destroying 32 drones over the Crimean Peninsula, as announced by the Russian Defense Ministry on Telegram. Benjamin Wright reporting.
Now, who is telling us truth? Both of them? One of them? Neither one of them?
Yep.
I mean, anytime I see a report like this, every time, it hasn't failed me yet, and this war is going into almost its second year now, right? Almost every time, I can't confirm anything in the report. Nothing. Everybody, both sides are saying what they say, and neither side has anything to back it up. And that's just the way it is. So,
Yep.
I don't know what to say on it other than you're dealing with a small country with a small population and a big country with a big population. That small country depends on the world to send them anything and everything they need to defend themselves with. That big country has everything that they need already, and anything that they might need a little bit more of, they get from other big countries with big weapons. So you tell me, who's going to win, the little guy or the big guy? And this isn't a David and Goliath type of thing. This is a Antichrist big and Antichrist little countries going after it. It's the way I look at it. Go ahead, David. What's your opinion?
It's all the world's a stage. Who said that? I forgot. What? It's true.
Yeah.
All the world's a stage, and they play out all this stuff, and it's akin to bread and circus from the ancient Russians. As long as you keep the people fed and give them entertainment, they had a little different entertainment. They had, the gladiators and all that stuff, and the animal, and they had ships. When the gladiators got boring, they'd fill the Colosseum up with water. They had ship battles and anything to keep people entertained. And today, it's all about the news and the wars and rumors of wars.
There you
That's
go.
what he talks about.
Yeah.
And the implication there, it says, a rumor of a war. It gives the idea of they'll always be talking about a war, even if it's not real. So the idea is to keep you just engaged in that, so you're not watching what they're doing behind the scenes.
Yeah. And they're doing a lot behind the scenes, that's for sure.
They're trying to set everything up, and it's escalating.
Now, I'm going to put his picture up here. I don't usually do this, but I'm going to put his picture up here today. This is the Pope. Okay, and I've got a few reports here that we're going to get into a little bit. I had heard somewhere, maybe you can. This is just something I heard, literally, just heard it. So I don't have any factual basis on this thing. That somewhere it's written that there would be X number of popes before the world ended.
Father Malachi.
And there, X number of whatever you call it, that guy. I can't remember what you call him now. But anyway, he was supposed to be the last one of his group. He's from Asia. And
this guy is a Jesuit.
Yeah, and so I don't know. Maybe they nailed it. Maybe they didn't. I don't know. I don't have any way of knowing that stuff. I mean, obviously the world.
Tom Horn from Skywatch. Tom Horn wrote a book called "The Last Pope," and he accurately
that was it, I
called
think.
the resurrection. Yeah,
I think that was
he
it.
called the resignation. Excuse me. He called the resignation of the last pope, and everyone said, "You're crazy. Popes don't resign." And lo and behold, he resigned. And then in comes this, the same thing they're doing with Biden and under the table girl. The same thing we're doing with him. Hey, let's just get one in there that we can get out and then put our guy in. Yeah. That's kind of what happened to him. And this one, supposedly, according to the book and the prophecy, Father Malachi, something or other. But get the book, Tom Horn and The Last Pope.
Yeah.
And you'll see that this one that's in there now is the last one.
Yeah, he may be. I mean, I can't debate you on it. I don't know. I just don't. But
Well, it's analogous to in Revelation we see the false prophet, because remember it's a false trinity. So you got Satan, the Father, false, and then the false Messiah, which is the Antichrist. But then there's also the false prophet, which would be like a false Holy Spirit.
right.
Okay, because there is the Trinity. So he's going to create a false Trinity. The false prophet, he says he has horns like a lamb, but talks like a dragon. So he'll pretend he's part of the church. Well, here he is.
Yeah.
Everything this guy is speaking is dragon talk. It's all satanic talk,
Okay.
but he's pretending to be the vicar of Christ.
Yeah. Well, now that kind of plays into what I've got today. Okay, on this, I'm going to start with this one first. Let's listen to it, because this is within the Vatican. I didn't even know they had courts. But anyway, let's listen to this.
It's
In a landmark financial trial that exposed the Vatican's internal affairs, a tribunal convicted Cardinal Angelo Becciu of embezzlement and sentenced him to 5.5 years in prison. The trial resulted in several verdicts, reflecting nearly 50 charges brought against various defendants over a 2.5-year period.
Cardinal Becciu, the first cardinal prosecuted by the Vatican Criminal Court, was found guilty of embezzlement while absolved of other charges. 9 other defendants received a mix of guilty verdicts and acquittals in this complex financial trial. Jessica Oakley reporting.
And I'm really not sure, what all there went on with that. But I look at it as a distraction more than anything else. Watch this really carefully while we do something else. And in this particular case, the something else, there's no news report on it as far as, something you can listen to or watch or anything like that. So pay attention, okay? Because this is a report.
Probably why they named him that.
Yeah. This
Hey,
report
I bet you $50.
is coming out of many, many news agencies overseas. And I've seen it posted on Fox News, but, if you would... If you've got to dig, okay? I mean, I had to dig on Fox News to find it after located. I just wanted to see whether or not the U.S. media was covering it. Couldn't find anything anywhere else, but I found it there. Anyway, the Roman Catholic Church maintains its position that marriage is a lifelong sacrament between a man and a woman. However, again, and I'm going to put his picture up there because he deserves credit for this. However, this Pope now, he says that same-sex couples can now be blessed by Catholic priests following formal approval from the Pope himself, Pope Francis.
Yeah.
Okay?
So
This is a new
he's got to do it
document.
himself.
It's a new document explaining the change in Vatican policy. It was released this week, saying that people seeking God's love and mercy shouldn't be subject to an exhaustive moral analysis to receive it. Now, the Pope sent a letter to 2 conservative cardinals in October suggesting that such blessings could be offered under some circumstances if those receiving the blessing did not confuse the ritual with the sacrament of marriage. How would they possibly confuse it? If you're going to bless their union, how could they possibly confuse that with marriage? I mean, that's an oxymoron position that the Pope is taking, don't you think?
Yeah, but he has to, because the spirit of Antichrist is a Baphomet, and not only do they have to be homosexual, they got to be transgender. So that's why we're getting all this push, and here at the end of the age, and he's got to push it hard because he knows his time is short.
Well, you talk about
And
pushing it
something else-
hard. Listen to this part. Okay, you talk about pushing it hard. The document from the Vatican's doctrine office says that requests for such blessings should not be denied. Okay, well, he wants to be able to do this, right? And he says that you got to go through me, but he also says, you shouldn't deny it. So what's the point of saying that? I don't know. This whole thing is nonsensical.
To appease everybody, really.
It's crazy.
We'll appease them, and then we'll appease the people that are against it. Because,
Yeah.
I didn't say they were married.
It says
it's
here
just
that the Vatican
double
has
talk.
long opposed same-sex marriages. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
but then it said in the new document, the Vatican said that the Church must shy away from doctrinal or disciplinary schemes, especially when they lead to a narcissistic and dictated views,
Yeah.
whereby instead of evangelizing, one analyzes and classifies others, and instead of opening a door to grace, one must exhaust his or her enemies in inspecting and verifying. I don't even get anything he's saying in this stuff, but anyway,
Yeah. Double speak.
yeah, it's. But anyway, that's another one on the Pope, and to
Let me
me,
give you this about the Roman Catholic Church was basically, if you look at Revelation and you see the order of the seven churches, you have Ephesus, then Smyrna, and then Pergamos. So
Right.
Pergamos is analogous. So Ephesus was like the early church. All right. Then it kind of morphed into the post-Nicene fathers there. And then it became, with Constantine, it became a state church. But because of Constantine and he had all these other pagan worshipers there, he had to mix everything together. All right. So where he said, okay, now we have to do this over here, we got to do that over there. And he mixed the pagan religion with the Christian religion. And that's literally what Pergamos writes. Now, if you have if you're married many wives, that's polygamy, right? Polygamos, polygamy. If you're one wife, it's monogamy, monogamy. Well, this is pergamy. It's a perverted marriage. And he's talking about the Catholic Church here at the Church of Pergamos. And then he talks about how, where Satan dwelled and the doctrine of the Nicolaitans and stuff like that. The Nicolaitans mean ruled by the people. So we see that right from the beginning. That was started by mixing the two marriages here. And this is what you get at the end of it.
yeah. Well, I don't know. The Catholic Church, it seems like it's going further and further left every day. When I was a kid growing up, it was hard for me to distinguish between the Catholic Church and the Baptist Church, Methodist Church, whatever church. It's just hard for me to understand the differences. But now, I think those differences are pretty clear. And I had, at one time, the audience knows this, David, you don't, but at one time I thought about joining the Catholic Church because I wanted to be in a church, but I wanted that church to be one that I would be comfortable in, as in I didn't want to change what I was doing. I was having too much fun, and I knew that the Catholic Church had these little provisions that you could, like you could smoke or you could drink or something like that. Yeah. So anyway, I wasn't interested in true religion. I was interested in the religion that would satisfy everybody. Hey, he believes in God and all that kind of stuff, but he's still cool. He still cusses like a sailor. He drinks like a fish, and he smokes all the time, like a chain smoker. That's what I wanted until I got there. I never joined it, but I went through all the catechism classes, all that stuff. I did everything except take First Communion and join the church. Everything else I did it. Okay. And
there's a lot of people like you in there that are like, they might be like seeking the Lord.
Yeah. That was exactly
they
what I
don't
was
realize,
doing.
well, what am I in?
Yeah, because it just didn't seem right. I mean, after the very first catechism class I went to, I can't remember how many there were. It wasn't one or two. It was more like 5 or 6 that you had to do. Okay, but I can remember after the very first one saying, something's not right here. And now I realize that was the Holy Spirit telling me, take a pass on this. Listen carefully. But I think you need to take a pass. And sure enough, that's exactly what I decided to do. Now, I don't want to come across as anti-Catholic for those people out there that are in the Catholic belief system or whatever, but I would warn you that your priest can't save you. The Pope can't save you. The only one that can is Jesus Christ, and you have got to You have got to pray that prayer of salvation to him and follow him, not the Pope. Okay, I'm just telling you. Okay, that's the truth.
No man on earth.
Right. Yeah, because Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. By the way, we get into a lot of very, very in-depth Bible study in the second show each week. And that's something I rely on David for this one because he's the scholar, not me. But David, you want to tell people about it? This is the Bible study verse by verse every Thursday at 7:30. Go ahead.
So every Thursday at 7:30 it comes out, and then unless you're on a different radio station, your radio station should probably figure it out. But we just have a blast because we really dig into the Word, and not just like lightweight on the top. Hey, what does that mean to you? Kind of thing. Now we really get into the depth of it. We get into the mathematics of the Word, the sentence structure. We get into the equidistant letter spacing. We get into the pictograms that are in there, because just like your DNA, okay, your DNA isn't just, hey, here's a list of instructions. If you read it this way, it's a set of instructions. If you read it that way, it's a set of instructions. If you skip the letters, it tells you what parts you need. And then when you fold it over, it kind of mixes together, and it can copy itself a million times over, like in a minute. And this is what the Bible is like.
Yeah.
Okay. It is undeniable this comes from a realm outside of our time-space continuum, which means there's only one person who could have written it, and that's Jesus Christ himself, because he says in the beginning, he was the Word, and he wrote it all down.
Amen.
So we get that every Thursday. Right now we're in Genesis 1:1. I think this might be the last week. It's the 7th week of Genesis 1:1, and then maybe we'll get to Genesis 1:2.
Well, I'll tell you what, it's been an education, and more than that, if you're looking for entertainment and you also want to get something out of it, this would be the one, because there's a lot of entertainment value in it, but it's a lot more than that, because we're talking about the Holy Bible, and we're talking about how it was originally written and then presented, and David breaks it all down beautifully. And anyway, I do encourage you guys to join us. And again, that's the second show every week, and it's originally broadcast every Thursday at 7:30 p.m. And you can do that at www.lastchristian.net. On YouTube, and there's a lot of radio stations doing it too. Anyway, we'll be back with the second half of the show right after this very, very short break.
From Feature Story News in London, I'm Simon Gaitan. 49 parliamentarians, all of them from opposition parties, were suspended on Tuesday in India. This takes total suspensions this session to over 140. Opposition leaders have been demanding a discussion on the security breach in Parliament last week, when 2 intruders entered the lower house, shouted slogans and set off a smoke canister. Federal authorities are investigating the breach. Terrorism charges have been filed against 5 suspects. Neha Punya has more.
To loud chants of "We want justice," 49 parliamentarians protesting in the lower house were suspended. They, like their colleagues who were suspended on Monday and last week, were demanding a discussion on a security breach in Parliament. They've condemned the move, calling it a complete purge of opposition leaders, alleging it is being done so controversial legislations can be passed without any debate. The ruling BJP has dismissed the charge, accusing opposition parties of disrupting proceedings deliberately and trying to politicize the security breach. Neha Punya, New Delhi.
Texas Governor Greg Abbott has signed a new highly controversial immigration bill into law, which makes it a crime to enter the state illegally and gives the police power to arrest migrants. It takes effect next March. Supporters say it's needed to curb record-high migration, but critics fear it will lead to racial profiling. Tony Waterman reports from Texas.
Under this new law, state and local police will have the power to arrest anyone they believe is in Texas illegally, punishable by up to 6 months in jail. State judges will also have the power to deport migrants back to Mexico. Critics say people of color will be targeted and that the law won't fix record-high immigration. There were more than 2.4 million apprehensions this fiscal year alone. The law is expected to face a number of legal challenges, especially since immigration enforcement falls under federal jurisdiction. Tony Waterman, Texas.
And fountains of lava have erupted into the sky above southwest Iceland after weeks of seismic activity. Authorities and residents have long been anticipating the eruption and had preemptively evacuated residents from the fishing town of Grindavik earlier in December. But when the eruption did finally happen, it came as a surprise, as Stuart Smith reports.
Scientists have been monitoring the area around Iceland's capital of Reykjavik since late October, when they first noticed an increase in earthquake activity. But with little warning, the volcano finally erupted. Police had just been discussing with some residents about the possibility of returning this week for Christmas. No one has been injured and no property damaged, and in a stroke of luck for residents, for now the lava is trickling away from the town. Iceland's president says the country is prepared, and authorities remain vigilant to see what the forces of nature have in store. Stuart Smith, London.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
And welcome back to the second half of The Last Christian. Again, my name is J.D. Williams, and joining me all the way from New York City, Mr. David Paxton. And David, we got a lot to cover. So I'm going to kind of rocket fire through a lot of this stuff. I want to get to as much of it as I can because there's a lot happening, and I think it all adds up to the fact that people had better get saved now. Okay, that's what I'm thinking. So I want to play this one first. This is the United Kingdom, and they're actually joining with Germany. Now, just real quick to let you guys know, last week there was a resolution brought to the Security Council in the United Nations calling on Israel to do an immediate ceasefire, and it was vetoed by the United States of America. Good for us. We did it, okay? But anyway, listen to this one really quick.
The UK has joined Germany in calling for a sustainable ceasefire in Gaza, where Israel continues its anti-terror operation against Hamas. Foreign Secretary David Cameron said Israel's tactics had to change, with too many civilians having been killed in Gaza. But they stopped short of calling for an immediate ceasefire like France, which joined 152 other countries last week, which voted at the UN for fighting to stop straight away. The UK doesn't support that, questioning whether Hamas would stop firing rockets, release the hostages, or change what Foreign Minister Cameron called its murderous ideology. The opposition's shadow Foreign Minister, Wes Streeting, says there's work to be done if a ceasefire is to be sustainable.
We all united around the idea that we could achieve a humanitarian pause. That approach, I think, was vindicated to the extent that we got a humanitarian pause for about a week, aiding people out of harm's way. But ultimately, even that agreement broke down.
Yeah, it broke down because Gaza has no intention of keeping any kind of a ceasefire, okay? All they did is just regroup. That's all, okay? And they tried to hide, okay? That's all. So anyway, to go a little bit further in this, have you heard of this lady, Ilhan Omar? Yeah. Okay.
Married her brother to become a citizen here, and then use that to get into Congress.
She has personally warned President Biden that his reelection is in trouble if he ignores, quote, heartbroken young Muslim voters. Okay? So, she actually met with the president personally. I wouldn't let the lady in my zip code. I mean, and if she was here, I would move to another one, okay? But anyway, he, I guess, invited her. She said that she personally warned President Biden about his reelection efforts.
As if she's somebody special.
Yeah. This is her quote.
I wouldn't warn the president. Hey, go for you.
She said, I recently had a conversation with the president. Muslims are very pivotal to his election. They mobilized in all key states. Young people were very instrumental in getting him elected, and what I reminded him is that he needs to listen to these voices. People are heartbroken. It's been really hard to have conversations about politics and policy. People just want the images of young children's bodies that they're piling up to end, and they want our support for this to end. In other words, we want the United States no longer to support Israel, but to support the Palestinians instead. Now, the Squad Democrats, if you hadn't heard of them, it's a group of Congress ladies, I think. I don't think there's any congressmen, right?
Yep.
But there is a small group of them. There's 10 of them in what's called the Squad, and they are.
I thought it was 4. No?
They are the far. Well, there may be, but I'll read this here in a minute because I may have misspoken there. You may have caught me in one there. It said that the Squad Democrats voted for a resolution to condemn the barbaric October the 7th attack on Israel by Hamas terrorists in October. They voted against that resolution. Make that clear. They voted against condemning people for killing others, but she's worried about the babies on the other side that might die. Okay, that was H.R. Bill number 771, which reaffirms America's support for Israel as it responds to the attack. And it received overwhelming bipartisan support and passed by a vote of 412 to 10, with 6 members voting present. Okay? Now, this is the reason I said 10. The far left Squad members, who were part of the 10 House members voting against the resolution, so I guess there was other Congress people besides them.
Yeah, they were part of it. Yeah.
Okay. Voting against the resolution included Omar, Representative AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Rashid Tlaib, Jamal Bowman out of New York, David, and Summer Lee, as well as Cori Bush. I wanted to give all of them full credit for their vote. Okay. So anyway. All right. So anyway, she's saying that she's warned the president, that this could be bad for him. And it got his attention. It got his attention, David. Okay. President Biden has been publicly downplaying the polls that are showing him running behind Trump in a 2024 rematch. But privately, both President Biden and his wife Jill are very upset by his poor poll numbers. And the president has delivered a stern message to top aides, according to several news reports. He's complaining to his close aides as how his low approval rating continues to frustrate him and the First Lady, according to numerous news reports. He said his poll numbers were unacceptably low, and he wanted to know what the team and his campaign were doing about it. Okay, so he's not responsible for anything he does, but he wants them to fix it. This is about the most. Again, this.
Put him in a nursing home. That'll fix it.
It's stupidity to the max. But you've got to remember now that Omar is telling him, hey, if you don't get the Muslims on board, you're going to lose. Okay, so that's
that's not going to happen. They're just blowing smoke again. That's what they do.
Well,
that's what
and
they do. So I do have a couple comments about that
and
too,
then there's this. As we go a little bit further into it, listen to this.
With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks, looking today at the pivot taking place at the White House over the crisis in the Middle East. US Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin is heading to Israel for emergency talks after Washington made it clear that President Biden wants what he has now called the indiscriminate bombing campaign in Gaza to come to an end. The US is telling Israel to move to a more tactical, targeted set of actions that spares civilian lives, but it has not yet echoed the weekend calls by Britain, Germany and France for a ceasefire. David Smith is US Bureau Chief for The Guardian.
The president has lost a lot of support, according to opinion polls, among many young people and progressives and people of colour. There's been an increasing number of protests about America's unswerving support for the.
Okay, I'm going to stop it right there just for a second, because you notice that he's echoing what Omar was telling Biden. Okay, that's what he was just talking about. Let's keep listening.
He was told to say that. So.
Exactly. Yeah, let's keep listening to this one now.
The Israeli government and criticism from within Biden's own party. So, yes, I think it does signal a mood shift. And Biden has always been a politician who tries to linger somewhere around the middle of his own party.
Oh, really? I can't ever remember him being anything but leftist. Is he somewhere in the middle of the Democrat? I used to be a Democrat.
Well,
okay.
If you call plagiarism the middle.
Yeah, well, he's good at that too. That ended a presidential campaign he had at one time, if I remember correctly.
If you consider that his wife was actually the babysitter, then is that the middle? I don't know.
Okay, we're treading on some difficult ground there. It is a fact. Yes, it is. It is a fact. It is a fact.
And she can see which way that party is going. But as yet, the official line of the White House is still no ceasefire.
The Israelis say their assault on Gaza will continue for months, setting the stage for increased tension between Washington and Tel Aviv. With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks.
Israel's going to do what Israel's going to do, and they don't care if Biden has a fit or not. And right now, in my opinion, the United States is a paper tiger.
Oh yeah,
I just don't.
They're going to be the one in the Bible where he says, "Oh, have you come to take the spoils?" And they're not going to do anything.
Exactly. Yep. And that's what we've been talking about ever since the show started. Is the fact that Bible prophecy is coming true right before our very eyes, and
sadly, I think Israel at this moment could probably defeat the United States. In my opinion,
I think so. Yeah, I think they could.
Not because we don't have wonderful people, but because of the leadership.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and the leadership would make all the decisions, and I think Israel would run circles around us, and that's a shame.
Well, because, honestly, I think it would happen with any country. I don't think we could beat anybody right now because we would be incapable of making a decision. And the Congress of the United States is charged with the declaration of war. Okay, well, if it happens to be a country that Democrats like, or that Biden likes, he's not even going to ask Congress for a declaration of war. He'll excuse it or do whatever. I mean, I think that's a proven thing. Now, I've got to say, that's my personal opinion. I've got to say that, but it's a strong personal opinion, and I don't think that the Republicans would give him a declaration of war if he was to decide to try to do something stupid like declare war on Russia or declare war on China or something like that. I just don't, I think that there's enough adults left that they wouldn't let him do it. So I don't know. I think that we're pretty much set up. Now,
there is an unusual thing going on here in New York, though, is I've noticed all the blondes are starting to tell AOC jokes.
That's a good one. That's a good one there. I like that one. Now, you know how they said that they can't find any. Biden said this not too long ago. You guys, you know it. I don't care if you listen to a liberal station or not. You know this to be fact that Biden said that he couldn't find where Iran was involved in any of this. Right? Yeah, he couldn't. He couldn't find it. Okay,
that's because he was eating ice cream with his babysitter.
According to Reuters here, the U.S. Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin said that Iran must stop its support of the Houthi attacks on freedom of navigation in the Red Sea, and he also pledged continued military support for the Gaza war. Quoting him here, he says, "In the Red Sea, we are leading a multinational maritime task force to uphold the bedrock principle of freedom of navigation." He goes on to say, and again, this is the sitting U.S. Secretary of Defense. Okay, he says, "Iran's support for Houthi attacks on commercial vessels must stop. Israel is a small, tight-knit community, and I know that all Israelis were touched by the vast evil committed by Hamas. I'm here to mourn with you for the innocent souls taken from you on October the 7th. I am here to stand alongside the families of those still missing in Gaza, including U.S. citizens. America's commitment to Israel is unwavering. No individual group or state should test our resolve. We will continue to provide Israel with the equipment you need to defend your country. Mr. Prime Minister, this includes critical munitions, tactical vehicles, air defense systems." Now, I've got it listed here as an important fact carry on with you guys is the Houthi attacks were also forcing companies to rethink their connections with Israel. Now, that's an important point that we'll get to in a second. Mm-hmm. And that, of course, is that the Bible is clear that no one comes to Israel's aid when they are attacked from the north, south, east, and west in the Gog and Magog war. Nobody. Okay? So there's still countries out there that are sort of, kind of supporting Israel. But if you remember that clip I played earlier where they said that there seemed to be a shift, well, this is another opportunity here, because people are saying, maybe we need to rethink our connections with Israel right now. And again, for anybody that chooses the wrong side, that's a bad move. It's a real bad move. Mm-hmm. David, I got a couple more here.
Let's do it.
BP has paused its oil tanker traffic through the Red Sea. This is what we were just talking about. They have achieved their goal. Okay? They've got BP. There's another one here, Maersk, I think is how you say it. It's Maersk. They have stopped their ships from going through there. It says that the U.S. Navy has sought to establish a coalition to protect trade through the Red Sea in recent weeks. The USS Carney and USS Mason have already shot down multiple Houthi drones and deterred a fast attack vehicle from approaching trading ships. So what do you think about all this, David? I mean, they've closed down the Red Sea with traffic. And there was another
they don't
point.
need to destroy any of them. All they got to do is stop the traffic. You get them to not want to come through. Yeah. So they're achieving their goal of doing that. And we're so afraid of just blowing them out of the water because of all the people that get in their false little uproars. But I'll tell you what, you remove a few of them, and the rest of them will think twice about doing that again. And that's the problem. We're just
the problem is we're not doing anything. Yeah, that comes back to what we were talking about before. Yeah.
Good for you. I got an idea how I would deter them.
Oh yeah, yeah, me too. Now, Hezbollah is also, they're threatening to extend what they say they're not doing. They're saying that they're not firing missiles at Israel, but they're going to do it more if Israel doesn't stop activity in Gaza.
We're going to do more of what we're not doing.
Exactly, yeah. Let's see here. Hezbollah has threatened the north. Iran hopes for a ceasefire, and here's why they want the ceasefire. It's very telling. Iran hopes for a ceasefire that will protect Hamas. And in response, the IDF has increased its airstrikes. So Israel they're not going to play this silly game at all. It says that Iran is also watching what's happening in Gaza. It wants a ceasefire to protect Hamas. It has watched the UK, Germany, and France begin to move toward greater pressure on Israel regarding the Gaza conflict. And I'm sure they're just cheering themselves for that. And they're looking at the United States and saying, when are you going to do it? So better watch out. Hezbollah. Yep. Now, this one I am hesitant to read because I'm only getting sources from the Middle East. Okay? Not getting any sources in the United States. This is the Israel National News is reporting this. That the IDF has accused the Hezbollah terrorist organization of launching attacks at Israel from United Nations sites and positions of the Lebanese military. You have any comment on that?
No. But my thought goes to, well, why wouldn't they do it there? Because then what if they attack a UN site? Just like, what if they attack the school? What if they attack the hospital? They're hiding there on purpose because they think they're not going to be attacked there. Mm-hmm. So, and then drawing them in for the same reason they shot missiles at their own mosque.
Yeah.
To say, well, now if we blow that up, we can blame them. Oh,
Yeah.
well, look, you blew up the UN. Now the UN, all the UN, they were giving an excuse for everybody to attack Israel because they blew up a UN site. I mean, it's all the same game. It's just ramping up.
Oh, yeah.
Ramping up fast.
Absolutely. Well, now Israel has also they found this terrorist who was part of the October 7th massacre. They found him inside a school where he wasn't supposed to be. Okay, that's where they found this guy. Now, the terrorist was from the Hamas group. It's called Nukba Force, NUK. Let's see, NUK HBA Force, whatever that is. And
Nutbag.
so the IDF spokesman, Rear Admiral Daniel Hagari, addressed the links the IDF goes to in order to avoid civilian casualties in Gaza. Now, this is something that people don't hear in the mainstream media, and I'm going to name one media source as being the worst offender. And I do this as a member of the press. I am a member of the U.S. Press Association. I see all reports coming in from the United States and around the world. And the worst place that you can possibly get your news is MSNBC. That is the absolute worst. I'm reporting that as a fact by KRRB, and they will stand behind me on this. That is the worst news organization. They take everything and they put their truth to it, and their truth is a lie. Okay? So keep that in mind. Okay? Anyway, here's what that Admiral Daniel Hagari said about the attacks that are conducted. We abort attacks when we see unexpected civilian presence. We choose the right munition for each target so it doesn't cause unnecessary damage. Hamas sees civilian death as a strategy. We see it as a tragedy, which is why we use many measures to try and minimize the civilian harm and suffering. That is the tragic reality in this war that Hamas started. We warn civilians before attacks whenever possible. We also recommended civilians to temporarily move away from areas of intense fighting. Our intent is to defeat Hamas and secure the release of our hostages. The tragic suffering of civilians in Gaza is not our intent. David?
Yeah, I lost my brain for a minute. Sorry.
That's okay.
Israel is always doing that. That's all you see. If any of you are on social media anywhere, all you see is these little clips of Palestinians, and they got some guy crying in the back, and they stage all these people in bags, which clearly none of it is real. And then you could see the other videos that show them staging everything. But it doesn't even make any sense because Israel doesn't do that. Precisely what they're telling you. Hey, if we see civilians, we're just going to call off the attack.
Yeah, call it off. Yeah.
So it's just lies like way off the charts, just to engender whatever they can. Just like Ilmar Omar was, she's just making stuff up. Oh, you better do it because we're so big.
They are
so
scaring.
Many of us. You're losing your support. Just nonsense. All of it.
What Biden worked, it seems like he ran for president first back in the 1970s, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, yeah, he ran like a dozen times.
Yeah, and, he wants to stay. I'm honestly, and I probably shouldn't say this, but it's honestly how I feel. This is something my wife and I have talked about this, that we really feel like that Jill Biden is doing him just a huge injustice. I think, honestly speaking, I don't think he has all these faculties.
Well, she's a puppet too.
I think
she's caught in the mix.
If people will watch him and they can tell me that they really think this guy's on top of his game, I'm going to call you a liar to your face. Okay, because all you
Well, they're
got
all
to do
turning
is
against him. You heard her.
just watch him a little bit, and when I say she's doing him a misservice, if I ever got that way, David, where I couldn't remember my name or which way to get out of my office or something like that, I would hope that. I would hope that my wife would not be saying, "Oh yeah, just keep doing what you're doing. Make an idiot out of yourself every day." And I would hope that she would instead say, "Hey, it's time to call it a day."
Yeah. Well, we all know her story. She did it because she wanted her part of the power.
Yeah, that's what
you find a man.
That's
and do what I have to do to get in his
that
pocket.
is exactly what Anita and I believe. And again, now all of that, guys, is personal opinion. You can have a different opinion, but I really hope that you got some facts.
Accurate opinion.
Yeah, I'd like to hear your factual data. I really would. Last thing I want to talk about today is the fact that the big guy,
The big guy.
and I'm not talking about the big guy as in Biden. I'm talking about the big guy as in terrorist in Gaza. He's called the Butcher of Khan Younis, Younis. And Israel has him trapped in one of those tunnels underneath Gaza. So whenever you guys are listening to this, he may have already been captured or killed, but he's going to be captured or killed. They're after him. They know where he's at. They're coming for him. I'm sure he'll pull everything that he possibly can out of his back pocket. I'm sure he'll throw as many children and women as he can in front of fire. I'm sure he'll do everything that he can, and then he's going to whine like a little baby because they're either going to shoot him dead or they're going to take him, and then he's going to be executed eventually in Israel. Either way, his days are numbered, and when his number's up, he done. And again, personal opinion, it can't happen fast enough. I will smile from ear to ear. David, any comment?
Yeah, I'm even happy now. I'm saying, because this is old news. Well, if we got it, it's old already.
Yeah.
So they might even have them by now.
They might.
just didn't tell us.
They might. And so anyway, it depends on when you guys are listening to this, but you can expect it. Okay. One more time, really quick, before we get out of here, we got less than 2 minutes. And I do want to once again let you guys know that in the next show, we are going to go verse by verse through the Bible. Bible teacher and scholar, Mr. David Paxton, he leads that. And my role in that particular show is to do my best to shut up and listen to David, but also to ask some questions that I think that people that are maybe have never picked up a Bible and have never accepted Jesus Christ. I'm hoping that when they listen to him and they listen to the questions I ask and his answers, that will lead someone to their salvation with Jesus Christ. We can't save anybody. David can't save them by making the presentation, but we can open the door for the Holy Spirit to work, and that's what it's all about. So, David, got about 30 seconds if you want to add something there.
No, we're just having a good old time, exploring the Word, and I think the key is understanding that it is the Word of God directly from His hand.
Amen. Amen. And that's exactly what David does. Everything, it is all biblically correct. It may not be politically correct, but it's biblically correct. Nope. And, that's what's important to us. We could care less what the world thinks is good for us. All we're interested in is knowing for sure that the way we handle ourselves is the way that Jesus wants us to, and to do the best that we can. So anyway, we hope that you'll join us for that show. It will be the next one, and we look forward to seeing you next time.
Thanks again for joining us today for the Last Christian Radio Show. And be sure to tune in every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday right here and at www.lastchristian.net. Until the trumpet sounds.
Are you prepared for an emergency or disaster? Because it's not a matter of if, but when. Don't find yourself saying,
when the storm rolls in, my time to find a pet-friendly evacuation center will have run out.
The scorching heat wave will leave me powerless to cool my insulin.
I'll face a hurricane without meds. Now that's a tough pill to swallow.
Let's prepare so we all have a better story to tell. Get started at ready.gov/older adults. Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.